Hello, and you are most welcome to this Game Pit Stop for Marvel Champions, the card game from Fantasy Flight Games, designed by Michael Boggs, Nate French, and Caleb Grace. Marvel Champions is a cooperative card game in which each of the players is going to take the role of a Marvel hero, and they're going to be looking to defeat one of the villains from the universe by putting enough damage on them to get them down to zero, possibly several times, before they get enough treachery here on this scheme and advance whatever they're trying to do. In this setup, we've got Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, looking to defeat the Rhino before they complete their break-in to steal some Vibranium. So we start with the player's turn. They're going to have a hand of cards which is set by whichever hero you are. And the first choice you're going to make is whether you wish to be your alter ego on your turn, in which case you're going to recover some of your hit points, because if all the players get down to 0 hit points, that's one of the ways in which the villain will win, as well as getting this scheme advanced all the way. So the alter ego will allow you to recover hit points, but it's going to allow the villain free reign to advance their scheme on their turn. If you wish to be your hero side, that gives you more options in that you can thwart the scheme and remove these from here, this threat. Also, you could attack the villain, looking to reduce their hit points down to 0, or you can defend against an attack. However, that means that the villain is going to attack you and reduce your hit points. You're going to have to balance that choice first of all. Then you've got unlimited actions on your turn as long as you can pay for them, and it's all going to be about getting cards into play or utilising the cards you have in play. So let's have a look and see what you can play on your turn. Firstly, you can play simple event cards like this Haymaker. This Haymaker will deal some damage to the villain, and up here in the left hand corner you can see the cost of it. It's going to cost 2. Now each of these cards generates a couple of resources of different types, and the different types can be linked to powers, as we'll see in a second, and also you can get these special there you go, there's one with one resource on, but you get these special resource cards which can give you more than one at a time to help you pay for these cards. So we could play this card, use this card to pay for it, they would then go in our discard pile, and we could do the damage then to the villain. Now, when you damage the villain, as I said, if you ever get them down to 0, then that would be a victory if it's on the final stage, because the villains often have several stages. In this case, all we've done is get Rhino onto stage 2, and that's then going to enrage Rhino and make them more powerful, but hopefully we've become more powerful by playing all of these cards during our turns. So what other types of cards can we possibly be playing? Well, we can have allies in their deck, such as Tigra here. Tigra comes into play. She can defend and take attacks for us, but she can also thwart the scheme or attack the villain. But every time she takes one of those actions, she actually damages herself, and she has a hit point value. You can have a maximum of 3 allies in play, but once they get down to 0 hit points, they are also gone out of the game. You can also put these support cards into play, in this case this Alpha Flight Station, and they'll tend to do things over the course of several rounds. So you're not doing anything right now, but you're planning ahead. You also get upgrades to your hero, which is going to make you more powerful as you go on, as I said the villain does when they go through their stages. And these are going to be particular to the actual hero's deck, because a hero's deck is not just made up of their own cards, it's a mix and match, and we'll discuss how those are put together in a second. So this one, for example, is linked to giving Captain Marvel the aerial trait, which doesn't actually do anything by itself, but you'll get more cards in your deck, which if you have the aerial trait, this is just an example for Captain Marvel, will become more powerful. For example, her helmet gives her +1 defense, but +2 if you do have that aerial trait in play. There's also special ways in which they use these different types of resources. For example, Captain Marvel uses energy, as you might expect. So she has a special card, Energy Absorption, which generates 3 energy at once. She can use that on a Photonic Blast, which only does damage if it's powered by energy. Or for example, this energy channel, you can build up counters on this card, and you can spend them all at once to do a huge attack to take out the villain. So you're building up your upgrades, your support, and also your allies in order to bring this villain down. Once all the players have emptied their hands of cards or decided they don't want to play anymore, it then goes on to the next player's turn as you go around. And at the end, when everyone's had all their turns, you're going to discard any cards you have remaining if you wish to, although you can keep hold of them. You're going to draw back up to your hand size, and then these characters which you've used, such as your hero or your allies, they will turn back up ready to defend if necessary. So we'll move on to the villain's turn. The first thing the villain's going to do is they're going to add threat onto the scheme. And it's going to be based on the scheme itself. It will tell you how much to put on there. Each of the schemes has got a limit, and if it reaches that limit, in this case it's 7 per player, that will be game over. The villain will have won, as well as that way of eliminating all of the players. Then, as I said, if you're in hero form, they'll attack you and they get a boost by drawing cards from their deck, and there's special symbols on them which can make their attack more powerful. Or if you're not in hero form, you're in alter ego form, they'll add more scheming and more threat on here onto the scheme, looking to defeat you that way. Then each player is going to draw an encounter card and they're going to have to deal with it now. And encounter cards come in different ways. You might get treachery cards. For example, this one here gets to do an attack down on the player, and they can possibly get one of these status things on there. There are 3 in the game currently, which means you don't get damaged, that you cannot thwart or scheme next time you do, or if you're stunned, you don't get to attack next time. So you can get treachery like that, which affects you. You can get treachery, which will affect the villain itself. In this case, Rhino becomes tough and won't get damaged next time that you attack them. You can also have attachments. Again, those will attack onto the villain themselves and make them more powerful. You can also get allies which come out. So you don't just have allies, but also the villains do. In this case, Sandman will be there. And each villain turn, Sandman will be attached to you and be attacking you. And you'll have to deal with them before you can carry on dealing with the villain. There are also side schemes that come into play. Now, they're going to have effects. For example, this one makes you draw extra villain cards during your turn. And they also have a value in which you put on a certain amount of threat on there. And when you get all that threat off, then this side scheme would go away. It would no longer be bothering you. But again, it's distracting you from dealing with the main scheme. Finally, each hero has obligation cards, and 1 obligation card per hero is going to get shuffled into this deck, and that's going to be specific. In this case, it says gives to the Carol Danvers player, and again, that's some sort of situation you're going to have to deal with, distracting you from dealing with the main situation. Now that's how you play a basic game. You take your turns, the villain takes their turn, they scheme or they attack, they deal an encounter card, reveal it back to your play again. However, this is just a basic game, so I'll show you what else comes in this box. So you get 4 other heroes. You also get Spider-Man, you get Black Panther, you get She-Hulk, and you get Iron Man. Now they all have their own specific obligations and their own specific cards, but that's not just the way that you build up this deck. So firstly, you put those heroes' cards in. Then you mix them in with one of 4 different sets, and they come in different areas. There's Aggression, which obviously will make you more attacking. There's Justice, there's Leadership, and there's also Protection. So you mix the heroes' cards in with those, and then there are some basic cards like Nick Fury, which also gets mixed in to make sure your deck is balanced. And that's how you'll generate each of the hero decks. Finally, each of the heroes also has a Nemesis, and there are certain in-game effects which can take place, which will ensure that your Nemesis comes into play. For example, Yon Rog for Captain Marvel, or Vulture might come into play with his scheme for Spider-Man. For the villain, yeah, they have their own cards, so there'll be loads of Rhino cards in this hero deck, but they also add special things in. They got standard cards again to balance their deck, but they also have those side quests there, those side schemes, and they come with not just the scheme itself, but also with other cards like special minions come into play. So when there's a bomb scare in this deck, you'll get Hydra bombers, what have you. So you can mix and match exactly what you're doing when you're fighting each villain. Now, speaking of the villains that you do get in the game, you've got Rhino, but you've got an upgraded version of Rhino. You can then move on to fighting Claw. And finally, the third villain in this set is Ultron, which is the toughest test that you'll get in here. And this is a pit stop for the base game of Marvel Champions, the card game. If you wish to have more in-depth coverage of gaming, please check out the Game Pit podcast. Thank you very much for watching.